Okay, great. Thanks, Terry. Yeah, good morning and afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining. I just want to take a minute of your time to give you an overview of the market strategy from SAP, and then talk more specifically about our middleware solutions, and then how master data governance fits within the middleware solutions, and I'll turn it over to Bill. So, Bill, can you go to the next slide? Yeah, so our goal at SAP is really to help the world run better, and we're doing this by investing in 5 key markets. And those markets include database and technology, mobile, analytics, applications, and cloud. As the foundation of the innovation for each of these different categories is HANA, and if you're not familiar with HANA, this is our revolutionary in-memory platform for real-time business and applications. And I just want to walk through each of these. So for applications, SAP, this is the technologies that we've already been known for in the 40 years of our history. And we have twice the market share of any of our nearest competitors in this space, and we're revamping our entire user experience of the SAP Business Suite, starting with new user interfaces. And today our solutions are more capable, elegant, and more powerful across 11 lines of business and 24 industries than ever before. Our second area of focus is on analytics. We're also the market category leader in this space, and businesses thrive when they have both insight and foresight. And our market-leading analytics solutions allow companies to deliver and then users to discover real-time insights using immersive visualizations on any device. An extension of this is mobile. And most of today's mobile innovations are really being driven by consumer companies, but we now apply this to the enterprise as well. And as hundreds and billions of devices become connected, there's a real opportunity for us to rethink applications for things like supply chain, transportation, and healthcare, for example, and really helps us extend the reach of our applications and analytics platform. The next area of focus is cloud, and SAP cloud-based solutions, which includes business-to-business, social collaboration, and people-centered applications, are all integrated in a consistent architecture. And customers can exploit this game-changing power of transactional data, as well as social, mobile, and analytics. And our cloud solutions take advantage of the inherently scalable nature of the on-demand model. And finally, database and technology, and this is a space we'll be talking more about today. But this is combining the power of in-memory computing and database technologies across our real-time database platform. SAP delivers a comprehensive architecture of database solutions for the unique challenges of departmental data marts, large data warehousing, real-time replication, data quality management, and master data management. And we're delivering dramatic improvements that accelerate transactional processes in areas like financial services and cost and profitability analysis. And while each of these categories play a role in growing your business, the ultimate power plays to combine all of them together and extend and multiply the individual impact. And SAP is the only company that's continuously innovating at the intersection of mobile, analytics, cloud, and driving breakthrough performance, all powered by SAP HANA, and delivering the most instant value to business, consumers, and ordinary people that were just impossible to reach before with these types of technologies. Could you go to the next slide, Bill? So now what I want to do is, in the database and technology category, what we offer is our capabilities under our middleware platform. And so first is governing information, and this is what we're talking about today. But when you look at the need to govern information in your systems, poor data quality will bring any business process to a screeching halt. And with information governance solutions, you can control, manage the quality of information from your data inception and entry to consumption, and really manage data through its entire life cycle, and also through business processes and ultimate systems that depend on data quality, like analytics and business planning. And we provide the ability to integrate, cleanse, and master your data in a structured or unstructured manner. We also help you develop applications, and developing highly scalable applications and services, and deploy on-premise, on-demand, or on-device. And our application foundation solutions combine open, reliable infrastructure with interoperability and flexibility of open standards like web services, RESTful APIs, and technology. We also allow you to connect and getting data to the right people that need it to make decisions and make them more effective in their everyday lives, be it employees, customers, or end customers, who can all benefit from the capabilities that help make the world run better. And all of this works great, but if you can't orchestrate your processes through disparate processes and workflows, then the solutions fall short. And our middleware solutions provide you with the ability to reduce the cost of process development and deployment and connect heterogeneous systems within and beyond your enterprise. Our processes orchestration solutions can help your business and IT professionals efficiently model, implement, integrate, and monitor your processes, all leveraging our real-time data platform. And at the end of the day, you need to manage all this. You need to manage your enterprise architecture and ensure that your solutions are well understood, documented, tested, in compliance, and monitored, which is all part of our middleware solutions we offer. And now I'm taking you through this brief overview of our solutions. What I want to do now is turn it over to Bill for the rest of the session. So Bill, over to you.
Thank you, Dominic, and also welcome everyone. Glad you could join us, and hopefully this will give you some information that will be found immediately at some point in the short future useful. What we're going to be taking a look at this afternoon is master data governance. So when we start looking at that, we need to get some definitions in mind and kind of get our heads around what it is that we're really talking about. So in terms of data governance, that describes how an organization manages its data assets, including both the master and transactional data. During this webinar, at some points I will be using the two terms interchangeably, but keep in mind our focus today is master data, and that's the data that is relatively static by nature, and that's as opposed to the transactional data, which is by nature frequently changing. So if we take a look at what our definitions are to kind of put a comparison together, when you look at IT governance, you have IT being the pipes that move the information, and governance is making decisions about the pipes. Well, that's a bit of an analogy that we can also use in data governance, in that the data is actually the liquid that is flowing through the pipes, and the governance directs the decision about the data. That is the liquid going through those pipes. The master data governance includes the rules, policies, procedures, roles, and responsibilities that guide the overall management of the data. And its goals are to ensure the organization's data achieves 5 main goals: accuracy, consistency, completeness, availability, and security. And in the documentation, there are several other authors, David Lotion, several others, that add some additional categories to these, such as uniqueness, timeliness, currency, referential integrity. But these are just a sampling of what's actually out in the industry these days. Now, let's take a look at the 2 main points for a moment. We're going to take a look at 2 typical environments, one chaotic and the other much more ordered. And we're also going to take a look at the set of drivers that allows you to move from one to the other. When we deal with chaos versus order, a robust data governance program is vital to providing consistent and meaningful business information. Here, we provide a comparison of the environments without data governance on the left and with data governance on the right. In the example on the left, we find in all likelihood that chaos reigns supreme. System structures can be complex, and we tend to find redundant groups or constellations, as SAP describes them. The siloed nature of the various lines of business tends to create introverted data within each of the individual business lines. In these cases, one ends up with definitions which are inconsistent, and as a consequence, data that's inaccurate. To compound the situation, we typically see multiple lines of business resolving the same problems. That's re with a hyphen and solving, instead of resolving, no hyphen, them consistently across the business lines. In the example on the right, we're showing an example of an environment where data governance has been implemented. We see the chaos has dissipated, and in general, the entire environment is considerably simplified. How do we bring about this radical transformation? If we look at the center of the right diagram, we see the means by which we can accomplish this: people, process, and technology. Successful data governance will require the support and involvement of the entire organization. When data is viewed as an enterprise asset, everyone from the CEO down to the lowest level employee will share in the responsibility of managing it as such. In general, this can take on the forms of a pyramid structure, as shown here at the top part, where we have a multi-level pyramid that can be shown as, in this case, 3. There are some other examples in the industry that use 4 levels in that pyramid, and various levels within that pyramid. Here we have strategic, tactical, and operational. In some renditions, there's an executive layer that may or may not coincide with the strategic layer. For the executive and strategic layers, the executive sponsors are the governance champions. That level is global in scope and comprised of C-level and key line of business executives. They need to remove roadblocks and active arbitrators of any exception requests that are not resolved at the lower levels. Strategic levels define and set vision, provide direction, and represent the interests of all of the business organizations and functional areas. When we move down to the tactical level, it's comprised of business owners, data domain leaders, and data stewards. This body can be either regional or local in scope, depending on the company structure. This group is responsible for resolving escalated problems, prioritizing and approving data quality issue remediations, and several other areas around data quality and operational level data issues. At the operational level, we're comprised of data custodians. These people are business and technical staff who may well be outside the data governance program, but work with the data on a daily basis. Generally, they will have a dotted line responsibility to the data governance organization, and this group is local in scope. Let's take a look then at the actual business roles, and we've defined 7 here. There are others that could be defined depending on the breadth and scope of the actual data governance organization. But we have, in this case, compiled the profiles for each of the business roles, as well as identifying required skills. Inasmuch as a one-line description does no justice to any of these positions, for the purposes of this webinar, I'm going to use a very encapsulated definition for each role. For the application data architect, this is the person who is responsible for the design of data within an application. Application owner ensures the tasks associated with ownership of a deployed application are carried out and that the application complies with all data standards. Business steward is responsible for the integrity and quality of the data within his or her responsible data domain. The data custodian ensures that the information delivered by the application meets the goals and objectives of the business initiative. The data governance administrator is the key position that engages with all levels of the data governance organization. That person is charged with maintaining awareness of all data-related issues being addressed by the data governance organization and escalates issues as needed. The data governance analyst manages compliance to data standards, and the data quality analyst analyzes and reports data quality findings, metrics, scorecards, reports, and status to the business data stewards, custodians, and the data governance committee. Now let's take a look at the how of master data governance. When we take a look at the how, here's an example of the areas that we would look at: data standards, business process and controls, and metrics. In data standards, the focus here should be enterprise-wide or global in nature. In some cases, it may be beneficial to start out within a given area and expand. We have all different sorts of measuring devices that we can use to describe the level of standardization that exists at a company when we're engaged to do any type of enterprise data analysis or strategy assessment. We have heat maps that identify hot zones of compliance levels, ways of taking a look at how complex a particular standardization task may be, and comparing it with how critical that particular task may be to the establishment of the standardization, and various and sundry other types of things such as maturity assessments, which would tell us which areas in the business are thoroughly standardized as well as which areas would do well to be more standardized. When we take a look at business process and controls, we take a look at what has been established by the data governance organization for its members to follow, if any. For example, how do you enter a material master record? In the cases where there's a validation, or say a check table in SAP parlance, for a particular piece of data, the entry process would need to prevent the person entering the data from entering invalid value, etc. A corresponding control would be a review of the information input by another party to verify the standards and conventions established for creating that have been followed and the information provided is as accurate, compliant, complete, available, and secure as possible. When we take a look at metrics, we want to establish an organization to provide and increase in overall quality of data. a means of measuring progress is needed. As in many disciplines in data governance, we depend upon measurable metrics and key performance indicators, or KPIs, to give us an idea of whether the situation we are trying to resolve improves over time. From the financial side, we might be interested in determining economic profit or perhaps days inventory on hand. For these types of metrics, we have to be certain the information that we're reporting to determine these indicators and metrics is as accurate, compliant, complete, available, and secure as possible, or these measurements are totally pointless. From the data governance process itself, indicators of interest would be the number of data correction requests per area of operation, perhaps compared with the number of such requests resolved within a specific time period. The possibilities of combining metrics together become numerous. Let's take a look now at the what. In terms of a what, we have architecture and technology. In terms of architecture, we have three main divisions. The first, centralized, and in this model, there's a single point of control at the enterprise level. Geographic groups, in this case, would have little input. Generally, employer HR master data is maintained within a centralized type of model. When we move to a decentralized model, this one is the opposite of centralized, where an attempt may be made to globally control some data, but most of the geographic groups operate in some cases, total autonomy. And the third, federated. As you might imagine, between any two extremes, there lies some middle ground. In this model, data is input through a single point, but the geographic groups provide input with respect to decisions. Another version of this provides for one point of entry for a given attribute, but that point of entry changes depending on how the DG organization is set up. When we take a look at the technology side of the world, there are three basic styles of hub architecture used for MDG systems, and really MDM in general: the repository model, the registry model, and the hybrid approach. The hybrid approach is really a continuum of approaches between the two extremes of repository and registry. There are pros and cons with each model, and we may put together another webinar which explores these models in more depth if the interest exists. For the repository model, all of the master data for an enterprise is stored in a single database. The repository thus must include all of the attributes required by all of the systems that consume that master data. In the registry model, that being the opposite of the repository model, we have none of the master data records stored in the registry database. Instead, the registry contains a list of keys that can be used to find all the related records of the master data item in the various application databases. The hybrid model includes features of both repository and registry models. It leaves the master data records in the application databases and maintains keys as the registry model does. But it also replicates the most important attributes for each master entity in the hub database. And that is the end of my content. So Terry, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thanks, Bill. The floor is now open for any questions you might have. If you could enter them into the question pane located on the right-hand side of your window, we will answer as many of those as possible. Bill, we did have a couple come in during the presentation. The first of which is, what is the best way to kick off or start an MDG project?
Okay. In that case, it's best to start small. You don't want to bite off an entire dragon when you're really only interested in starting with a couple of feet. If you get too much information governed at the beginning, it becomes difficult to reorganize as you go through. So I'd say that that would be the best way to handle that one. If you have an area that's somewhat contained, like say finances, that's a reasonable place to start, where their data is basically more or less involved with their reporting and their output, that type of thing. So you're not involving a huge web of people that would have all kinds of interactions with that data as you're going through.
Okay, I guess we could consider this a bit of a follow-up to that question. You've been asked, don't we need to implement data governance everywhere all at once?
Yes, I've heard that several times. And with data governance projects, a lot of things get rumors flowing, and we get a lot of clients who think they have to go in a big bang approach. And we're very quick to reassure them that no, they don't. It's quite possible to start at a smaller scale and build as the fluency with working with the applications increases. Like, for example, I used in the last question the area of finances. Okay, so even with the, I should say, even in the SAP MDG application, there are 4 main domains that are supported at in various versions, and financials is one of those. And that's generally where most companies that we've dealt with have started their data governance side of things. Most times, financial organizations are a little bit more centrally controlled, and the model fits very well into a centralized data governance organization as well as a centralized data repository. So we work with, from that perspective, and move out. And even with the, including the latest release, 6.1 of MDG in SAP, they actually have provided functionality to prune down the amount of the various entities that you're actually governing. So they've also enabled us to cut down on our first round of implementations to, again, get our feet wet and start people getting to the point where they're comfortable with it. One of the key areas in here that you will run into problems with is change management. It's critical for ERP applications. It's also even more critical for data governance ones. And the additional challenges there will be some of the people that were actually involved in change management in the ERP processes may themselves be the ones who have to go through change management when you're implementing data governance.
Okay, Bill, we have a question about the difference between master data governance and data governance. There seems to be some confusion in their organization between the two terms. How would you address the difference?
Good question. As we mentioned in passing, and I'll go into a little bit more detail, when you're dealing with master data, that is primarily data that is fairly static in nature. These would be things such as customers, vendors, and materials in terms of global attributes. And in the case of SAP, we have the entire set of tables that are devoted to the customer master being kind of classified as customer master. And those may not be all master data. In fact, when you look at each of the different domains, the easiest way to separate the types of stuff that you need to govern and not is whether or not it has relevance to an enterprise level. So when you're dealing with a financial application, you're not going to need to manage everything all the way down to the bottom of the list of attributes in each of the entities like GL accounts, cost centers, or profit centers. You really need to take care of only those things that are critical to the enterprise. Data governance is a little bit wider of a perspective. In these cases, you're dealing with perhaps lower levels of control. For example, when you have a material, you can kind of divide it up into several zones. The first zone sort of being the global data, which is basic data, classification, those things that are in general tied specifically to the MARA table. And then as you go down further in the structure, you get to the plant level table or the MARCI table. And so in that case, you may have information there as well that needs to be governed. And it may or may not be considered master data because you may have fields that are changing on a more frequent basis. In general, the difference between the two of them is master data is something that changes fairly rarely. It's very static in nature, things like addresses for customers and vendors. Yes, some customers and vendors do move around every now and then, but generally companies will stay where they are until something changes in their organization that forces them to. So the master side of it really deals with the level at which the data is changing.